welcome to IMS Global Quarterly Member Meeting, November 2020. A special welcome to our community members who are joining this meeting and attending this session. We are having so many conversations today about challenges, but what we want to do and pivot towards are dialogue towards solutions and solutions using comprehensive learner record. We have the opportunity to transform this pandemic into an opportunity to improve ourselves, our communities of learners, and our future through authentic lifelong learning. And together we can discover how comprehensive learner record can accelerate student success and learner self-efficacy. Now, I'd like to introduce you to a few of our amazing higher education colleagues who are going to share out their CLR projects and their initiatives towards the middle of our session today. We have with us Dr. Chadia Abras, who is the Director of Institutional Assessment and Associate Professor over at Johns Hopkins University. We also have Dr. Sherri Braxton, who's the Senior Director of Institutional Technology at the University of Maryland, Baltimore County, and Dr. Andrew Wolf, the Director of Educational Effectiveness and an Assistant Professor at the School of Nursing at the University of Rochester. Thank you so much for being here today. Our takeaways are really clearly noted and targeted, and so we're going to dive right in so that we can make sure we have time. But I want you to think about this with regards to readiness to begin implementing CLR at your institution and what it might take. What are some of the opportunities that you have right now? So let's take a look at the problem firstly. 34% of Americans have a bachelor's degree, but the average cost of $122,000. And if you look at different kinds of institutions, so you've got some public two-year institution with in-state rates around $50,000, and then you have, private nonprofit four-year institution, hovering close to $200,000 for that bachelor's degree. We have 36 million adults who have some college, but no degree. And we have about 39% of students who finished 4 years with, we're looking at $1.6 trillion in student loan debt. Part of the problem associated with those numbers is that many students or learners transfer colleges at least once, and it's about 32% of them that do that. And many transfer and they lost a lot of their own credits, the credits that they've earned. Lateral transfer rate is around 43%, and the average credits lost is around 13. So what does that mean? Well, that adds to the problem, but there's also some problems associated with where folks wind up working. 43% of folks are underemployed in their very first job, and you can kind of see how the numbers sort of flow down the rank. And it's interesting. Folks are going with the intention towards one particular area of interest, and they don't necessarily have the skills when all is said and done to actually enter that area. So they might need to upskill or reskill in many ways. So the other problem is associated with our current transcript, where we get to see like the courses associated with what it is we are going for this degree or this certificate for, but it's basically text and abbreviations. So many students do struggle to make connections across the curriculum and communicate what it is that they know and can do to employers. So that hurts the value of the degree or credential in their mind. And then, it comes down to, I think exactly what the T3 Innovation Network has said is that, people often can't communicate what they know in a meaningful way. And therefore, like, employers are struggling to figure out who are the people, who are the best candidates for the jobs. They are valuing the skills and experience that folks would bring into a particular job. Earlier today, I had the opportunity to listen to Mark Green and folks, talk about how far we've come. And certainly, you can look at this timeline as a real growth spurt in the way that we've moved towards comprehensive learner record. Specifically, you know, we see that CBEN, which is the Competency-Based Education Network, they just finished their conference last week, you know, certainly has accelerated a lot with regards to the unpacking of skills or the transparency of skills. IMS Global obviously champions in providing opportunities to unpack those skills through comprehensive learner record, through open badges and these certifications and standards that are out there. And then of course, you know, ACRO, T3 Innovation Network. And here we are in 2020 with the IMS Global CLR standard, as well as the T3 Network LER pilots in full action. So this is our opportunity. We have an opportunity in higher ed, in many ways are already doing this, is to repackage skills in different ways and to connect with faculty and staff who are offering opportunities for students to practice these skills. We are rethinking student services with skills at the core. And ultimately, we're embracing curricular mapping in a way that we've never seen before. At AEFIS, we're seeing more and more folks really becoming much more intentional in digitizing curriculum that would ultimately lead to comprehensive learner record. So the essential question that we'll look to answer today is, what shifts must you make in order to fully enable comprehensive learner record at your institution? And to define this, we'll look to EDUCAUSE, who defines it as a digital asset, CLR as a digital asset that helps students both better understand their learning and share a verifiable record of their knowledge and achievements. CLR gathers data about performance beyond just course grades with the ultimate goal of capturing, recording, and communicating learning when and where it happens across the student's higher education experience. So the comprehensible value proposition looks like this. It becomes this official record of achievements recognized by ACRO. It is an integrative process of learning and assessment with evidence coming together in a container, which is the comprehensive learner record. It provides the opportunity for you to sort of ramp up the skills and abilities across levels of learning. It's verifiable, it's interconnected. Learning is in context with one another, so you understand how folks are actually learning the skills and earning achievements and what's in the background of that, what rubrics are associated, what it is that the student did to provide evidence for meeting that achievement. Students have the ability to share this out. They own the record and they can share parts of it or in whole to employers. So they are able to kind of align the skills that the employer is looking for and the frameworks that are listed on their comprehensive learner record that represent the skills and achievements that they have. At AEFIS, we're doing this really well. We're supporting the shifts in the delivery of post-secondary education that are in motion with the focus on outcomes and skills at the forefront, helping to usher in changes in the way higher education is verifying the degrees here. You can see everything that I was talking about with regards to context is now available on AEFIS Comprehensive Learner Record, and we have completed our compliance testing as you know, members of IMS Global and as champions of CLR, and so we will be the first product to actually reach the standard and reach the IMS Global standard in that case. And so you can see that all of these items that are associated with student learning can be found on the comprehensive learner record. How do we kind of break this down? End to end, CLR is the natural byproduct of the intentional curricular mapping of learning across many vehicles of learning, which include co-curricular, which include digital credentials and badges and certificates. CLR captures the context of the learning through that you know, beautiful curricular map that's put in place through the learning management system. Wherever the evidence of learning is happening, we know a lot of folks are using some authentic assessment vehicles to capture the learning. These will all be linked within the AEFIS CLR academic value chain and ultimately present itself back on the CLR, making the learning available to students, and it can travel with them as they make their learning lifelong. The idea is we don't want students to lose transfer credits or life credits. We want them to be able to take that with them. We want them to be able to self-issue some items, much like students have done with ePortfolio, but make this more meaningful to allow them to link it to the same frameworks where their verified achievements are coming from, and then ultimately share these achievements out in this one container so that an employer can see the skills that the student has, and as a candidate for this job, what they could potentially bring to the table. So one of the ways that we need to start with this work, if we are going to bring CLR into our campus, is we have to engage the right stakeholders. Now I'm going to put on my director of assessment hat for a moment and say, like, my years in higher education, I had to bring these folks to the table. I found that I had one whole group meeting where I talked about what comprehensive learner record was, and I honestly didn't even know exactly what comprehensive learner record was. I just knew what I wanted to be able to do for students. And then I learned very quickly that comprehensive learner record through AEFIS was the thing I needed to do. So I had these folks at the table and I said, you know, to the registrar and to the students themselves and to various members of the academics, that this was something that we wanted to do to add value for the student, to add value for us, even as continuous improvement and accreditation, being able to make the learning transparent was so critical. And then of course we needed to make sure that we connected with our IT advising folks, as well as admissions and marketing, because I wanted admissions to be able to share this information out to parents at Admitted Student Day and whatnot. So engaging the stakeholders is so important. At this point, I want to move over to our colleagues over at the University of Rochester School of Nursing, Johns Hopkins University, and University of Maryland, Baltimore County to share out their, I would call this their 3-minute thesis of their specific CLR initiative, where they are in the process. I'll start off with the University of Rochester, Dr. Andrew Wolf, if you want to give us an overview of where you are with regards to your CLR initiative.
Thanks, Suzanne. You go ahead and advance to the next slide.
Truly.
So basically, just for those of you not familiar with the nursing profession and nursing education, we've really been undergoing a major shift in our approach to education from a lecture-based model to a competency-focused learning model. So really aimed at ensuring that students have the skills for practice at whatever level they're preparing for. So it's very much well aligned to everything Suzanne was talking about in terms of the underlying premise of CLR. So we're really kind of aimed at making sure our students have the competencies they need, and we want to be able to have the ability to track individual student progress across a curriculum, so we don't wait until sort of the end of the program to find out that they're not ready for practice. We'd really like to catch them early on so we can add additional supports or either advising or academic support services, et cetera. And then also we're looking at the ability to have effective program level assessments so we can sort of look at data in aggregate across our curriculum and target areas that be able to identify areas that were very successful and areas where students may be struggling as a group, and then be able to target those. So that's kind of the why we're moving forward with this. In terms of the how, kind of focusing on those solutions, we've had a e-portfolio that we put into place. Actually, we started the process about 2.5 years ago, and lacking other good technology at the time, we built our e-portfolio in Blackboard. And so in some ways we've done a lot of thinking about using e-portfolio to track the development of competencies at the school, but we've really struggled with the technology. It's difficult to use, and it also doesn't really do a good job of collecting data. So there's many elements that we're not liking, but it gives us a place to start. So right now, we're doing multiple things simultaneously. The one thing we're doing is we're building the infrastructure in AEFIS for curriculum mapping, which will kind of give us all of the infrastructure we need to track students from course to course, assignment to assignment as they progress through the program. However, those of you who have undertaken this kind of curriculum development work, it takes a lot of time. So it really takes a lot of patience and perseverance, and it's a lengthy process. So it's really a multiple year process. We're kind of in midway through it in some ways, but we didn't want that to hold us back doing what we can right now. So we're actually, even though that infrastructure is at various levels across programs, some were nearing completion, some were just getting started, but we're kind of jumping in using the CLR, having students identify their own artifacts. So kind of looking at those student selected or instructor endorsed artifacts, students can start to use the CLR right away. And then from there, we're looking to sort of scale program by program. The other thing I wanted to mention too is as our employer is getting wind of what we're doing, but our employers in the community, particularly the medical center where the University of Rochester Medical Center, they are getting interested in seeing how they can align their own professional portfolios to what we're doing in education. So I think there's some really exciting opportunities that we're just starting to talk about, being able to create a comprehensive learner record that can follow our graduates into practice and really have a similar structure and even similar competencies, which is exciting because it's as we think about the vision for CLR, it really fits nicely with that. So I'm excited about that process. So stay tuned for that.
Thanks, Andrew. And, I think you brought up a really good point about like really getting faculty involved in the curricular mapping. And you know what, that's not easy. It's not easy for folks to decide on things, to decide on what assessments, to decide on even the language. But it's good that you're taking the time to actually be very intentional with that language, because it's important for the student, it's important for you, it's important for all of the different stakeholders that you're representing with this work. So appreciate your intentionality around that. I'm going to shift over to our colleagues over at Johns Hopkins University, and that means that's you, Dr. Chadia Abras.
Hi, everyone. So to build on what Andrew already said, because it's the same process, just to give you a background, Hopkins is a very decentralized space, not unlike Rochester. So Andrew was talking about the plan from the School of Nursing perspective here. For the Hopkins, we are implementing at the JHU level. So up to now, many of the divisions had their own CEUs with their own systems, with their own portfolio, with their own LMSs and entry points. There was no way to connect any of the student data within the one system and or track the assessment process, which is if we want to go through the process and be outcomes based, there was nothing for us to be able to track these outcomes. So we approached the divisions and we asked for volunteers at this point, and 5 of them expressed interest to be part of the pilot. And the aim of the pilot is to test the several systems that are there, connect them with AEFIS, and or connect them with our SIS or any entry point for payment through the LMS or through our JHU systems to see what works best. But the common denominator is going to be the AEFIS assessment piece. So we are meeting with them soon to see if they are ready to go through the pilot, because 5 in a pilot is quite a bit actually. So we're hoping to take it down to 1 or 2. And the readiness is going to be determined by whether they already have program outcomes mapped to their courses that we can build in AEFIS and map to assessments to be able to collect the data. They have to be on board with assessing through AEFIS and collecting all the data through AEFIS for it to work. And the hope is some of them have external badging and validation systems that they are using, and they expressed interest in having the badging and validation to be internal. So we can do it through the AEFIS, as Suzanne already said. But the ultimate goal is, because we have a parallel implementation of AEFIS for our curricular activities. All the programs are going to be built into the AEFIS system for all the divisions, eventually within a 3-year period. We would like to connect all the activities, whether curricular or extracurricular or validated or self-reported, through AEFIS for it to be able to track through the CLR. So the students who could be in different divisions can transport the credits they earned, whether through CEUs or credit bearing, across divisions, which at this point is not possible. Also, we wanted to make sure that the many portfolios that exist across the universities, whether homegrown or on other systems, can come into the AEFIS system. And this way, the portfolio pieces are tracked through the CLR. The ultimate goal is for us to do badging, certification, or even digital transcripts for our programs. The exciting part is we are looking forward for these systems to all come together, and for the CLR to be the movable part that the student can own and take across divisions, but also across universities and organizations. So we're doing those in parallel. Some may take 3 years, but the immediate pilot with 1 or 2 of the divisions for the CEUs only is starting next week. So,
thank you so much. Yeah, that's great, Chadia. And I think one of the things you highlight here is the nimbleness that needs to occur for all parties, right? Just being able to pivot, to be flexible in the way you're working with the different stakeholders. You hit some really key pieces that you're looking for, which include, do they have outcomes? Are they linking to a framework? Yes. We'll talk more about that in a little bit. But thank you so much for that overview. I don't know if you had anything else to add. I think I might have jumped in too early.
No, that was it.
Perfect. Thank you, Chadia.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right. And I'm going to move over to our last CLR initiative or pilot project, and that is over at the University of Maryland, Baltimore County. And that means it's time for Dr. Sherri Braxton to share this information out. Sherri?
Thanks, Suzanne. So UMBC started participating in Illumina and ACRO Phase 2 Comprehensive Learner Record Pilot in the fall of 2019. And a little bit of background, we're focusing on a project with the Greater Washington Partnership. So that's a civic alliance of CEOs in the Baltimore-Richmond corridor that are focused on economic growth. And as part of that, they need to increase the pool of qualified candidates for employment. Now, all our students can't be STEM and tech majors. So what they did was identify key digital technology related skills that graduates need to have to be able to step into this space. So we're talking about trying to reach, humanities majors, folks that have really important skills to bring to these companies like Northrop Grumman, Amazon, Under Armour, but they also need to have some digital fluency. So DWP developed a learning framework of knowledge, skills, and abilities, along with academic leaders and technical people who work for those companies. And they identified some credentials, one that we call the digital generalist credential, and then some specialist credentials in areas like cybersecurity, data analytics, and AI and machine learning. So we're focusing on the digital generalist credential for our pilot CLR. There are 6 competency areas underneath that credential: data security, data analytics, prob stats, data manipulation, data visualization and communication, and data ethics. So we're handling each of those competencies as an area that can be badged individually and then stack to the digital generalist credential that they're trying to earn. So we know that non-tech majors aren't going to take courses in all these areas. So what we did was decide to create modules that we could then have them go through, that were created in collaboration with faculty who teach courses related to those topics. So the first step in that is obviously identifying the courses in our curriculum where these competencies are addressed, and then working with those SMEs to identify the objectives and map those through their current courses and find out where gaps existed so that we could create the additional content. So there's that curriculum mapping piece that Suzanne and everyone else has been talking about. That is very important. And as Andrew said, it's very time consuming, but it gives faculty a chance to rethink and reimagine their courses when they start looking at these alignment issues. So we worked with faculty to create these modules in what we're calling USMX, which is basically a System of Maryland branded version of the edX platform, because our goal is to share these modules across the system with other institutions who also want to be able to award these credentials. So UMBC developed the modules, and then we're sharing those out openly with the rest of the system. So we have implemented the modules. We're testing those modules right now. We're using the curriculum mapping, the outcomes assessment and collection, and the CLR solutions within AEFIS in order to pilot our comprehensive learner record, and hope to be rolling it out into production in the spring.
That's awesome. Thank you so much. Something that brings everything together is, determining CLR readiness. This was something that, Chadia brought up. And I guess you can start off with a quick scan of your institutional culture of assessment, and it will reveal a certain amount of CLR readiness. There are likely some programs that will stand out to begin really because they are ready. Accredited programs, health profession programs, licensure programs, or obviously CBE programs set themselves nicely to kind of get started. And then from there, after you identify a few programs that you think meet some of the early criteria, you might want to look for whether or not a program has a director or coordinator for assessment, champions or advocates for alternative assessment, key assessments within courses, co-curricular or experiential, e-portfolios in place as maybe a previous way to kind of pull things together, like Andrew suggested, as a summative assessment. And then a robust use of technology, maybe a high use of LMS or other ed technologies for capturing assessment data. Those are all really great places to kind of get started. And I think, lastly, it's, this is the time. When we think about COVID-19 and the number of challenges for higher education that have been kind of unveiled, nestled between them are opportunities to advance initiatives that empower student learning and enhance self-efficacy. And CLR is one of those opportunities we have to move forward. You can learn a lot more about our initiatives, these and many more, and take part in a number of CLR boot camps on AEFIS Academy. You can become part of that community. But I will turn things over, and that's AEFISacademy.org, to see if there are any questions or any other final comments regarding our discussion here today. As I'm getting you to think about it, you can unmute. We have a number of other events that are on AEFIS Academy. We do have some of our AEFIS Academy members here in this session. We've been doing Assessment the Musical, which has been a light, fun, kind of off-the-cuff break for assessment professionals, and actually Carol Beatty sings. And then you could also listen to our colleagues over at the University of Minnesota Twin Cities, and he's going to talk a little bit about building a common assessment framework, him as in Stephen Hawke. So we're excited for that. Hey, Andrew, there seems to be a question in the chat about ePortfolio in Blackboard, and how you actually were able to kind of, I know we worked together on this, sort of that ePortfolio shift over to comprehensive learner record. Do you have a quick 30-second kind of answer about, that transition?
Sure. So the ePortfolio and Blackboard was set up. What we did when we set that up was to identify signature assignments that were aligned to program learning outcomes in one of our programs, and then we identified specific milestones where students were expected to submit their portfolio to a faculty advisor for evaluation, and we're planning to really sort of build on those processes and bring them both over as we move over to AEFIS. So, you know, the signature assignments will be able to we're going to put into AEFIS itself, and then work with faculty to sort of build rubrics that are either aligned to the program learning outcomes, or we're also in some programs we're thinking about standardized rubrics that are essentially kind of like the AAC and U's value rubric model, where it's designed to be the same rubric that follows a student step by step across the curriculum. I think we may need to use a combination of the two of those, but we're working on that. And then, yeah, and we're still going to keep the process of having students submit their CLR to faculty for evaluation and for their own reflection at various points throughout the program. So.
No, Andrew, that's really important to mention. One of the things that you and I talked about is that, you know, Blackboard serves its purpose. It is a course, is a course and learning management system, but it stays locked in there. To get that portfolio out in a manageable way, and to keep students from like just kind of doing this laborious task to kind of check a box, just didn't work for you all anymore. And you said, hey, we'd like to do something better. And I know COVID-19 helped to put a spotlight on that as clinical rotations sort of changed. But
well, I'll be honest too, with Blackboard's ePortfolio is essentially abandonware. They haven't developed it since like 2005 when it was a cutting edge product. You know, back. So I think it's just clunky to use. So there's many problems, but yeah.
Great. And for the purpose that you're thinking about. And Joshua, thank you so much. Discuss CLR as a transcript, replacing a traditional transcript as a CLR in an ILR wrapper. I mean, I don't know, Chadia, you want to talk a little bit about that? I know that came up in conversation with you all, with registrar and whatnot, when we first started to talk about these projects.
This is way down the line. We're just waiting, because without these programs being in AEFIS, the transcript itself will be incomplete, but it's going to eventually pull a outcomes-based evidence from the student information system, from AEFIS outcomes, and create a outcomes-based transcript that will be coupled with a diploma. And actually, for you to be able to create the diploma, you have to connect to something that you may have already, or get something like C diploma or Paradigm. What is it, Suzanne? Paradigm?
Yeah, yeah. What you're describing too is that, and I know you all use MyHub through National Student Clearinghouse, so the information all go together. So you're not replacing your diploma, you're adding value. What the student is necessarily going to share the diploma, they're going to share their skills and outcomes assessment that they've earned. And they can access that either through MyHub, through National Student Clearinghouse, or they can share this out individually to wherever they want to go. Thank you so much for all of your discussion here today, for sharing out your initiatives. You can connect with us on AEFIS Academy. All three of these members, plus myself, are on AEFIS Academy. So feel free to join and connect, and we'd love to keep the conversation going. For all of us here, have a great rest of your afternoon and a great IMS Global meeting.
Thank you, everyone.